Have you ever met someone and wondered, could this be the one? In a world full of confusion, heartbreak, and rushed relationships, it can be hard to tell who's truly meant for you. But when God is the author of your love story, there are no random chapters. He leaves clues, clear, powerful signs that the person in your life isn't just a good match, but a divine connection. If you've been praying, waiting, and hoping for confirmation, these 7 signs could be exactly what your heart's been waiting for. ChatGPT said, when God is at the center of your life, the way you see love completely changes. You begin to understand that a relationship isn't just about butterflies, long texts, or perfect Instagram pictures. Those things fade. What matters is whether your connection is rooted in something eternal. That's why one of the clearest signs that God has chosen someone perfect for you is spiritual alignment. It's not about having identical personalities or even being in the same place spiritually. It's about heading in the same direction together toward God. Too often, we chase compatibility by worldly standards. Do they like what I like? Do we have fun together? Are they attractive? And while those things aren't wrong, they can blind us to what really sustains a relationship over time. You can share a playlist, but not a purpose. You can laugh at the same memes, but still walk separate roads spiritually. God's match for you will go deeper. They'll care about your soul. They'll pray with you, not just for you. They'll have a hunger for truth, even if they express it differently. And that hunger will create a foundation that emotions alone can't provide. When God is the author of your relationship, He won't just give you someone who checks your boxes. He'll give you someone who challenges you to grow. That person might not come in the package you expected, but they'll carry a presence that feels familiar in your spirit, because they're connected to the same source hymn. That's where alignment begins. You're not trying to convince each other to believe. You're not dragging each other to church or into prayer. You're walking side by side, growing in your faith together, even when it's hard. I've seen people fall in love with someone's potential and call it alignment, but potential isn't purpose. Just because someone could be a spiritual partner someday doesn't mean they're God's answer today. It's not about seeing what they could become, it's about who they are becoming with God now. Are they seeking? Are they submitted? Are they humble enough to be led by Him, not just talk about Him? And here's the thing. Spiritual alignment doesn't mean perfection. God's choice for you will still be human, with flaws, with moments of doubt, with days where they mess up. But what makes them different is their willingness to grow, their commitment to repentance, their openness to correction. They don't just want to look good spiritually, they want to be good spiritually. And they want that for you too. The right person will help protect your relationship from pride, temptation, and distraction. They'll bring clarity, not confusion. You'll feel safe being honest with them about your struggles because they won't judge you, they'll pray for you. You'll feel challenged to become a better version of yourself, not because they criticize, but because their example inspires. And when you argue, which you will, they won't fight to win, they'll fight to restore peace. That's the fruit of spiritual alignment. It's not loud, but it's powerful. Some of you have been in relationships where you felt like you had to shrink your faith to keep the peace. You felt like reading the Bible was too much, like praying together was weird, and that's not what God wants for you. You were never meant to dilute your devotion just to be loved. The right person will never ask you to choose between them and God. In fact, they'll help you love God more deeply, because they reflect His love more clearly. That kind of alignment will show up in your everyday moments. When you're anxious, they won't just tell you to relax, they'll remind you to trust. When you're tired, they won't pressure you to perform, they'll encourage you to rest in Him. They'll speak life over you when you can't speak it for yourself, not because they're trying to impress you, but because it's who they are. And when two people like that come together imperfect, but aligned in purpose, God can do incredible things through them. You don't need someone who's perfect. You need someone who's pursuing the same God you are, with the same sincerity, the same hunger, the same humility. Because when your spirits align, your hearts can grow in the same soil. And that's when real love takes root, not in fleeting feelings, but in shared faith. If you're wondering whether someone is from God, don't start by looking at their resume. Look at their rhythm, look at how they walk. Do they run to God when life is heavy, or do they run away? Do they lead with prayer, or do they just rely on their own strength? The answers to those questions will tell you more than words ever could. The person God has for you won't just love you for who you are, they'll love who you're becoming in Him. And you'll know it, not because they say the right things, but because your spirit will recognize the peace that only comes from divine alignment. There's something powerful that happens when God is involved in bringing two people together. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it doesn't rush. Instead, it comes with something that's often overlooked in relationships: peace. A deep, unshakable peace. And let me tell you, when God chooses someone for you, you'll know it because your soul will stop striving. Your heart won't be in constant confusion. Your mind won't be stuck in loops of fear, doubt, and anxiety. You'll have a calm assurance that goes far beyond logic. That's what the Bible means when it talks about the peace that surpasses all understanding. You can't fake that kind of peace. You can fake romance. You can fake connection. You can even fake interest for a while, but you cannot fake peace. That's either there or it isn't. And when you're in something that isn't from God, you feel it. You know it in your body. You're constantly overanalyzing, you second. Guess every move, you wonder where it's going, how it's going, if they're really in it with you. That's not peace, that's emotional exhaustion. And see, the world teaches us that love is supposed to be chaotic, unpredictable, even a little toxic-like. If it's not intense, it's not real. But that's not God's version of love. God's love brings stillness, clarity, and protection. It doesn't torment you. It doesn't make you feel like you're never enough or like you're walking on eggshells. It doesn't create cycles of highs and lows that drain the life out of you. When God chooses someone for you, you can breathe again. You can think clearly. You don't lose yourself. You find more of who God created you to be. Let me tell you something a lot of people don't want to hear. Confusion is not from God. If you're in a relationship and you constantly feel unsure, constantly feel like you have to chase validation, constantly feel like you're the only one carrying the emotional weight, take a step back. That's not peace, that's pressure, and pressure like that is a sign that something's not aligned. The peace God gives you isn't something you have to force. It settles in, it anchors you, even when things get tough. That's not to say the relationship will be perfect. Of course there will be challenges, of course there will be disagreements, but even in those moments, that underlying peace remains. You'll feel a sense of, we can work through this. You'll sense that the foundation is solid, that you're not building something on sand, but on rock. You won't have to fight for reassurance, because love, when it's from God, comes with consistency. And consistency is where peace lies. I want to be real with you. Many people stay in relationships that rob them of peace simply because they're afraid of being alone. But listen, loneliness is not as costly as losing your peace. You can recover from loneliness. But when your peace is gone, when your mind is in chaos, when your spirit is drained every day just trying to make something work that isn't meant to, that takes a toll. God doesn't ask you to sacrifice peace for the sake of a relationship. In fact, peace is one of the ways He confirms that the relationship is from Him. Pay attention to how you feel when you're around that person, not just in the good moments, but in the quiet ones. Do you feel safe to be yourself? Do you feel free to express your thoughts, your fears, your hopes, or are you constantly censoring yourself to keep the other person from leaving? When it's right, you'll feel seen. You'll feel heard. You'll feel calm. That stillness in your spirit is God whispering, you're safe here. Some of you have experienced what I'm talking about. You've had moments where you met someone, and from the beginning there was no anxiety. No games, just honesty, just presence, just grace. You didn't have to strive. You didn't have to explain your worth. They saw it. They honored it. That wasn't an accident. That was a glimpse of what peace looks like when God is involved. Now hear me, peace doesn't always look exciting at first. It might not feel like fireworks or infatuation, but peace is what lasts when the spark fades. Peace is what carries you through storms. Peace is what helps you forgive. Peace is what keeps your heart soft and your communication honest. Peace is what allows love to grow not just in the good seasons, but in the hard ones too. So when you're praying, God, is this the one? Don't just look at how they make you feel in the moment. Ask yourself, does my soul rest around them? Do I feel peace, not just comfort, not just attention, but true spiritual peace? If the answer is yes, you might be closer to God's answer than you think. A relationship that's truly from God doesn't just feel good, it helps you become good. Not perfect, not flawless, but stronger, wiser, more grounded in who you are and what you were created to do. That's why one of the clearest signs that someone may be chosen by God for your life is that they help you grow and you help them grow too. There's mutual support, mutual development, mutual elevation. You aren't dragging them or being dragged. You're walking together, building something with God at the center. In the world, we see so many relationships that look like partnerships, but they're really silent competitions. One person shines while the other shrinks. One grows and the other feels threatened. But when God ordains a connection, that insecurity doesn't take root. There's no jealousy in your journey. Their success feels like yours. Your breakthrough feels like theirs. Why? Because the relationship isn't about who's ahead, it's about how far you can go together. When you're with someone God has placed in your life, their presence pushes you in the right direction. Not by force, but by influence. You want to become better. You want to heal. You want to grow, not because they demand it, but because the relationship becomes a safe space where growth is natural. A place where failure isn't final, and where mistakes are seen as part of the process, not the end of it. That kind of partnership becomes a greenhouse for your soul. It nurtures, it waters, it encourages. Some of you know what it feels like to be in a relationship that stunts your growth. You've had to shrink yourself. You've hidden parts of who you are to make the other person feel secure. You've sacrificed your calling just to keep the peace. And maybe you called it love, but let's be honest, that was survival, not partnership. Real love doesn't ask you to compromise your identity. It protects your purpose. And when someone is truly from God, they won't compete with your calling, they'll complement it. You can tell a lot about a relationship by how it handles your dreams. Do they listen when you share your vision, or do they brush it off like it's unrealistic? Do they remind you of who you are when you forget, or do they make you doubt yourself even more? When God chooses someone for you, they'll take your purpose seriously, not because they understand every detail of it, but because they understand you. They see the weight you carry, and instead of adding to it, they help lift it. They become your teammate in life, not just your partner in name. That kind of relationship will challenge you too, but it's not criticism for the sake of control, it's correction for the sake of character. They'll tell you the truth even when it's hard, because they care more about your growth than your ego. And you'll do the same for them, not from a place of superiority, but from a place of love. It's iron sharpening iron. Sometimes that creates sparks, but those sparks refine you, they don't destroy you. And listen, growth doesn't always look like big leaps. Sometimes it's in the small things, the way they speak life over you when you're discouraged, the way they help you build better habits, the way they pray for you when you don't have the strength to pray for yourself. That's growth, that's love, that's partnership. And when both people are committed to becoming more of who God designed them to be, the relationship becomes a mirror. You start to see not only who you are, but who you could be if you continue walking with God and with each other. You'll know it's right when their presence helps calm the chaos in your mind, when their words remind you of who you were before the world made you question it, when their belief in you feels like fuel, not pressure, and you do the same for them. That's when you realize you're not just building a relationship, you're building a future, a legacy. Something sacred that reflects the love of God, not just in moments of passion, but in everyday choices, in shared responsibilities, in quiet prayers whispered in faith. And let's be real, there will be seasons when one of you is tired, worn out, discouraged. That's life, that's normal, but when it's real, you take turns carrying each other. You don't give up because one of you is having a hard time. You slow down, you lean in, you cover each other in grace, not guilt. And over time, you become not just stronger individuals, but a stronger team. So if you're wondering whether a person is from God, look at how they handle your growth. Look at how you handle theirs. Do you water each other's purpose, or do you pull each other off track? Are you becoming more of who God called you to be or less? The answer will always be in the fruit. There's a kind of love that doesn't just feel good, it feels right. Not in the way the world defines it, not based on chemistry or compatibility alone, but because it reflects something deeper, something sacred. When God chooses someone for you, the love they show won't just be emotional or physical, it'll mirror the love Christ has for us. That's the real sign. That's the standard. And it's so much more than sweet words and romantic gestures. It's a love that lives in action. It's patient. It's kind. It doesn't give up when things get uncomfortable. It's rooted in truth, and it leads with grace. We've all seen versions of love that are based on conditions. I'll love you if, I'll stay as long as. But Christ, like love, is different. It's steady. It's selfless. It doesn't just show up when everything is going well, it stays when it's hard. And when someone has truly been sent by God into your life, that's how they'll love you. Not perfectly, because no one gets it right all the time, but consistently, with humility, with a willingness to grow through the hard moments, not run from them. This is the kind of love that gives you space to be human. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to perform. You can bring your real self, your brokenness, your fears, your struggles, and still feel seen, still feel safe, still feel valued. Because when love is modeled after Christ, it lifts burdens instead of adding to them. It doesn't shame you into change. It inspires you to heal. It doesn't hold your past over your head. It reminds you that grace is real. One of the ways you'll recognize this love is how it handles conflict. Anybody can love you when it's easy, but when you hit a rough patch, when emotions run high, when disappointment creeps in, that's when real love shows itself. The person God has for you won't use your vulnerability against you. They won't weaponize your mistakes. They'll speak the truth in love, not out of pride or frustration, but because they care more about restoration than being right. Love that reflects Christ also honors your worth. It doesn't push your boundaries. It doesn't pressure you into compromising your values. It respects your no. It respects your pace. It respects your process. It looks at you and sees more than what's on the surface. It sees the hand of God on your life and treats you accordingly. That's not just romance, that's reverence, and it goes both ways. When you love someone from a place of godly intention, you don't just love what they do for you, you love who they are becoming. You're not focused on fixing them, but you are committed to growing with them. You listen with empathy, you speak with kindness, you serve them in ways that may never be seen by others. That's what love looks like when it's real. It's not loud, but it's faithful. It's not always glamorous, but it's deeply rooted. Now, this kind of love requires maturity. It asks for accountability. It calls you to rise above pride, past hurt, and selfishness. And that's why it's so powerful, because when two people love each other like that, they become a living example of God's love in action. Their relationship becomes more than a connection, it becomes a ministry. It shines a light in a world that's confused about what love really is. I think sometimes we settle for lesser versions of love because we're afraid the real thing doesn't exist. Or we think it's unrealistic. But let me tell you, just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean it isn't possible. God's love is very real, and when He brings the right person into your life, they'll reflect it in how they treat you. You won't have to wonder where you stand. You won't have to beg for affection. You won't be left feeling less than. Their love will show up in the details, in how they protect your heart, in how they prioritize communication, in how they apologize when they fall short. It'll show up in the way they honor your dreams, the way they cover you in prayer, the way they walk with integrity even when no one's watching. That kind of love doesn't need to be loud to be real. It doesn't need a stage. It just needs consistency. If you're wondering whether a person is the one God has chosen for you, don't just look at how they make you feel, look at how they love. Because when love is real, when it's from God, you won't just feel it in your heart, you'll see it in their action. Thank you.